The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. As the City of Angels began its nightly transformation, neon signs flickered on, street lamps cast long shadows, and the hum of life grew louder. In the heart of this urban jungle, nestled between towering skyscrapers, sat a small, unassuming café. It wasn't much to look at, just a regular neighborhood joint with chipped paint on the walls and a well-worn sign above the door. But for Ethan Cole, it was a sanctuary. Ethan, a name synonymous with success and wealth. The youngest self-made millionaire in the city, CEO of multiple companies, philanthropist, and bachelor. All those labels fit neatly onto Ethan Cole, except for one, romantic. See, Ethan was hopelessly, desperately in love with the woman who poured his coffee every morning. Not the barista, mind you, but the one who owned the place, Lily Walker. Now, you might be wondering, why didn't he just ask her out? Or how did he keep this up for so long? Well, here's the thing. Ethan had tried asking her out 5 years ago, when he first laid eyes on her. But when she'd turned him down politely, citing her commitment to her shop and dreams, he'd backed off, respecting her decision. Since then, he'd taken on a different role, a silent admirer. He frequented the shop daily, not because he needed coffee, he was a tea man, but because he wanted to see her. He'd strike up conversations, hoping to get closer to her, only to be reminded gently but firmly of her unavailable status. But Ethan wasn't deterred. He became a fixture at the shop, the wealthy man who preferred chipped mugs and mismatched chairs to the finest china and crystal. He became her most loyal customer, buying extra pastries to surprise her on bad days, or simply sitting in the corner reading a book, stealing glances at her when he thought she wasn't looking. Lily, oblivious to the depth of his feelings, treated Ethan like any other customer, albeit one she enjoyed talking to. She saw him as a friend, a confidant, someone to share her hopes and dreams with. She didn't know that he listened, not just to her words, but to the unspoken language of her heart. As the months rolled into years, Ethan's feelings intensified. He found himself confiding in her, revealing aspects of himself he'd kept hidden behind his millionaire facade. He told her about his insecurities, his fears, his dreams. And she listened, offering words of comfort, understanding, and encouragement. Their bond deepened, becoming a source of strength and solace for him. Meanwhile, Ethan's business empire expanded, deals were struck, profits soared. But none of it brought him the joy he found in Lily's presence. He'd sit in her cafe, watching her interact with customers, her hair catching the sunlight, her eyes crinkling at the corners when she smiled, and he'd wonder why someone as wonderful as her was still single. Was it because he hadn't made his move yet? Hadn't confessed his undying love for her? Then one evening, everything changed. Ethan was leaving the cafe after his usual evening tea, when he spotted a new face behind the counter. It was Mark, his old college friend and business partner, someone who knew him better than anyone. And there they were, deep in conversation, their laughter echoing in the small shop. Ethan's heart sank. Mark had always teased him about his unrequited love for Lily. What if he spilled the beans tonight? He decided to leave, but as he reached the door, Mark appeared beside him. "Didn't realize you were here," Mark said, his eyebrows raised in surprise. "Thought I'd stop by and say hi. Heard you were a regular here." "Oh, yeah," Ethan stammered, suddenly shy. Mark grinned, nudging him playfully. "Come on, buddy, spill the beans." "How long have you been crushing on her?" Ethan blushed, shaking his head. "It's not that simple, Mark. You don't understand." "Oh, I understand more than you think," Mark said, his grin widening. "And let me tell you, she's just as fond of you as you are of her." "What?" Ethan exclaimed, turning to him, hope dawning on his face. "She is." "Sure she is," Mark said with a wink. "Don't take my word for it. Why don't you ask her yourself?" With that, Mark left, chuckling to himself, leaving Ethan stunned. Could it be true? Did Lily feel the same way about him? Suddenly he couldn't wait any longer. He had to ask her. Taking a deep breath, he turned back to the cafe, his heart pounding in his chest. He walked back in, determined to finally confess his love to her. But as he approached the counter, he saw something that made him freeze in his tracks. Lily wasn't behind the counter. In fact, she was nowhere to be seen. And there was a note on the counter where she usually stood. It read, "Gone for the day. Be back tomorrow." He felt his heart sink. Was this a cruel joke? Just as he'd gathered the courage to confess his love, she'd vanished. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of Lily. Ethan found himself growing more desperate with each passing day. He kept going back to the café, hoping to catch a glimpse of her, to hear her laugh, to see the sparkle in her eye. But all he was met with was a locked door and a note on the wall that said, "Out of order." Had he been too late? She waited too long? Or maybe Mark was right. Maybe Lily did love him too. Then one rainy afternoon, as Ethan stood by his window overlooking the city, his gaze fell on the café across the street. It was closed as usual, but he saw something that made him rush out of his office and into the rain. There she was, walking away from the café, an umbrella shielding her from the downpour. He didn't hesitate. He dashed across the street, ignoring the rain soaking him, ignoring the surprised looks from passers-by. All he could think about was reaching her, talking to her, hearing her voice. As he neared the café, he saw her unlock the door and step inside. Summoning all his courage, he knocked. The door opened, and there she was, her hair wet and plastered to her forehead, her cheeks flushed, her eyes wide with surprise. "Ethan," she breathed, a small smile touching her lips. "What are you doing here? I thought you weren't coming back." He took a deep breath, trying to steady his voice. "Came to see you. I need to talk to you." Before she could respond, he stepped inside, closing the door behind him. And the rain continued to pour outside, drumming against the glass, a rhythm of longing and hope. They stood there for a moment, the café silent, except for the sound of the rain. And in that silence, Ethan realized that he didn't need words. His love for Lily had been a silent melody in his heart for years, but now it was time to turn that melody into a symphony. He reached out, took her hand in his, and looked into her eyes. "Lily," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "Need you to know something. I may not have said it before, but—" "Ethan," she interrupted, her voice soft yet firm. "I know what you want to say, and I want you to know that I feel the same way about you. I have for a long time." His heart skipped a beat. She felt the same way. All these years he wasn't alone. A slow smile spread across his face. The years of pining, the nights spent staring at her from afar, it had all been worth it. In that small, unassuming café, amidst the smell of brewing coffee and the taste of sweet pastries, their love story unfolded. It was a love born out of friendship, nurtured by shared moments and solidified by unspoken feelings. It was a testament to the idea that sometimes love doesn't need grand gestures. Sometimes it just needs a quiet corner and two hearts beating in unison. As the rain subsided and the clouds parted, revealing a sliver of sunshine, Ethan and Lily stepped out of the café hand in hand. The world around them seemed to shimmer with new possibilities, brighter than the billboards lining the city's streets, sweeter than the pastries in Lily's café. They had found each other, not by chance, but by choice. They had chosen to see past the millionaire and the waitress, to connect on a deeper level, to nurture a bond that defied societal norms and expectations. Hand in hand, they faced the city, ready to write their next chapter. One filled with love, laughter, and the promise of forever. Because sometimes, just sometimes, the quietest cafes can hold the loudest love stories.